You know what? We can do this. Hello, everybody. This particular episode is about existing, caring, and primary emotions. And the way I approach emotions and the way I think they're happening for us and why they exist for us is they're just like sensory experiences. Sensory experiences like sight, sound, touch, taste, they all exist for a purpose. They're part of our continued existing. They have evolved to the point that they are for us humans today. They exist for many other animals, same purposes, same reasons, same things. And we need to know that as a basis for understanding emotions. So things smell good or bad to us. We use our hearing, our listening of sounds, sights, everything we do to understand our environment, to exist within our environment. Emotions are the same thing. So emotions tell us what's happening around us. Our emotional responses, they tell us what's happening around us and how we feel about them. If something happens around us, we feel good. We have sort of a happy feeling about it. It's a positive feeling. Or something happens around us and we feel anger, which means it's making us angry. It's something not good for us. Again, serving a purpose for us. Every emotional response serves a purpose for us, just like every other sensory response does. So keep that in mind as I talk clinically next about what emotions are all about and what they are for us fundamentally. So in my practice as a psychotherapist for 20 years, I have noticed all along and become increasingly convinced over time that we have 4 primary basic emotional responses, feelings, experiences in life. They are basically happiness or contentedness and wellness. And then there's depression, feeling down, feeling sad, maybe feeling empty. And then there's anxiety, feeling just anxious all the time, fearful, extremely worried. And then there's irritable, grumpy, angry, really annoyed. And so these responses are just these 4 basic responses we all have. I've noticed over time, I've noticed that we all have these, every one of us. And when life gets too difficult, to put it simply, we can get depressed or really sad or anxious or really fearful or irritable or really angry. And so those emotions ebb and flow throughout the day, but they can get clinically significant in terms of these diagnoses we have for depression and anxiety. Remarkably, one day then I'm going along reading articles like I do a lot of skimming, a lot of reading, and I find this article from research from the University of Glasgow in Scotland. And they study facial expressions. They're not studying, clinical things like me. They're not studying emotions as an experience. They're studying facial expressions. And in the work of facial expressions, I guess for decades, there have been a lot of psychologists and a lot of universities and places doing research on what facial expressions tell us, or primary emotions. And there, once a bunch of folks were talking about, well, there are 8 primary emotions, and then some folks identified 6. Well, people have identified a whole bunch of numbers, and some people don't believe at all in primary emotions, and then there were 5 identified. And then this place in Scotland, they identified 4. And what hit me in the face like a ton of bricks was that they identified joy, anger, fear, and sadness, which is exactly what I've identified as a clinician that we humans experience all the time: joy, anger, fear, and sadness. And I put them in that together like that just to form the acronym JAFS. There's no particular order, but and hopefully, of course, we experience joy most of the time, like 90%, but we also have responses like anger, fear, and sadness, again, to tell us something. But to go back to the 4 primary emotions thing, is that when they published that article, or someone published about them in their work, oh my God, it just made so much sense that that's exactly what we're experiencing. So now I approach my clinical work with my patients with the same ideas in mind, the same what I think are discoveries about what's going on for us, what emotions are and why they exist and what they do. And in subsequent episodes on this channel, I'll talk about how they relate to depression and anxiety and how they are the foundation for really effective treatments to get rid of things like depression and anxiety. But we first have to understand the four primary emotions that we have all the time, just like we have sensory experiences like sight and sound. We have emotional experiences of joy, anger, fear, and sadness all the time. They're all good emotions. It's just that one is really good, and that's the joy one. And we'll talk about that more later. Finally then, just to conclude for this episode, these emotional responses that we have in these four categories. We have so many words that describe our emotions. There are at least hundreds, if not probably thousands. And what I'm saying is they all fall into these four categories. And they exist for a reason, about our existing. Emotional responses evolved in animals over time to help them know what's good for them and bad for them. What helps them continue existing, and what helps them understand, avoid that because it will not help you continue existing. Be attracted to that, it causes the joy response. Avoid that because it causes anger, fear, and sadness, because both help us continue existing. So next week we'll be talking more about exactly how primary emotions are responses, and then get into each of them individually over time. Thanks, and take good care.